According to Not the Bee, a Canadian law would allow judges to hand down life sentences for speech crimes. A new hate speech law in Canada billed as protection of children would criminalize speech in Canada to an even greater degree and allow judges to imprison people for life. You know, I've been actually wondering when they were going to start going down this road, because I was thinking of this like 20 years ago, as you could find more and more information that did not support the mainstream narrative when you went online. Anyhow, I digress. So this law is, as many tyrannical projects do, claims to be serving a positive purpose, a good, something that would be difficult for people to criticize, right? That it's to protect children. But according to Not the Bee, the law as it is currently being presented is redundant of other Canadian laws designed to protect kids online, something that everyone should support. However, there is language in the law that makes it clear that this is a Trojan horse of sorts for extreme government overreach. A quote from a government spokesperson went on to confirm the shocking truth about the legislation, which is that it would put people in prison for life for things they've said, specifically advocating genocide. Quote, Bill C-63 would increase the maximum penalty for advocating genocide from 5 years to life imprisonment, said an unnamed spokesperson for the Canadian government, and from 2 years to 5 years on indictment for the willful promotion of hatred. And they raise a great question here. So the question is, who gets to decide what advocating genocide and willful promotion means? Now, unfortunately, Not the Bee slips into sort of an obtuse reference about a certain part of the world where people are being subjected basically to a genocide right now, but we'll skip over that. But this is a disturbing development, and unfortunately, it's not just happening in Canada. Speaking of a land where genocide is being carried out right now, recently, South Dakota Governor Kristi was proud to announce that she has signed a bill into law in South Dakota, which ultimately is a restriction on freedom of speech. And again, raises the same kinds of questions where someone in authority is going to decide what you can and cannot say. The governor says she was proud to sign HB 1076, a very important bill to combat anti-Semitism. This bill defines anti-Semitism and makes it easier to prove when discriminatory conduct is motivated by anti-Semitism. It is an impactful piece of legislation that will ensure the safety of Jewish people and strengthen South Dakota's anti-discrimination laws. So a look at this bill, and it's very brief. If I'm looking at the correct thing, and please somebody put in the comments if I'm not looking at the right thing. But it basically just says that they are adopting a law that says South Dakota government actors are required to consider the definition of anti-Semitism when investigating unfair or discriminatory practices. And they define that by saying, for the purposes of this chapter, the term anti-Semitism has the same meaning as the working definition of anti-Semitism adopted by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance in 2016. It doesn't go into any further detail in the bill, which I find a little disturbing. So if you want to find out what that means, you have to do a little more digging, and we go to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's website and their working definition of anti-Semitism. Well, first of all, it starts off saying that They adopted, in 2016, what they adopted was a non-legally binding working definition of anti-Semitism. And the definition is, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. They have examples that they give of anti-Semitism in public life, the media, schools, the workplace, and in the religious sphere, could, taking into account the overall context, include but are not limited to, and they list several things here. Why is this important? Well, because this bill that was just signed into law by the supposedly freedom-loving governor of South Dakota specifically states that it includes the contemporary examples of anti-Semitism identified therein being the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition that was adopted on May 26, 2016, which is what is listed here on this page. And among those things that they list are some very awful things, but it's still exercise of speech. And some of these are really disturbing because, read this one. And I'm not going to try to read it because I'm probably going, the algorithm probably isn't going to like this video anyways. But read this part: accusing certain citizens of being more loyal to a certain country or to the alleged priorities of a certain group than the interest of their own nations. Ladies and gentlemen, whether or not you can actually prove that that's true is irrelevant. The fact that there is a law that says that you can't make those allegations is a violation of the freedom of speech. And just as a reminder, in the United States, that naturally occurring human right, fundamental human right, the right to free speech, has been reduced to writing and encoded in the law of the land, in the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.